There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. It's a brand new week and you're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. Joining me, Mr. Tim Dennis at the Supernatural News Desk. We're going to do things a little reverse this week. Start off with some Parashare, roll into Supernatural news, and we've got a lot of stories to share, so I wanted to try to get through quite a bit, but we have a lot of news to cover this next week as well. So let's get started. First email begins, Hey, Dave and Tim. I've lived with spirits for just about all of my life, and I've always been interested in the paranormal. I love listening to Darkness Radio and Beyond the Darkness, and I wanted to share a handful of stories with you two. I'll save the best and scariest experience for last. Ooh, something to build up to. I like that. It was the summer of last year, 2017. I like to take a shower after everyone goes to bed, so often it's quiet and I can just jam. I had left the light on, the ceiling fan on, and went and showered, shutting my door. At this point, everyone was asleep, and after getting out, I went back to my room. The light was off. Logically, since the switch was on, I assumed that the light had blown and retrieved a new light bulb. Going back into my room, before I could unscrew the light bulb from the light fixture, I got an odd feeling, like I knew what had happened, but it hadn't quite filtered through into a coherent thought. I pulled the chain that was connected to the light, and it turned on. At that point, I just went to bed. Did not want to deal with it. Nope, not about that. Second story. The same summer, another thing happened. So the next incident was something else altogether. Besides being scratched and hissed at and rushed by something in my mom's closet, nothing of any significant magnitude has ever traversed that threshold and into the rest of the house. Essentially, we never had experiences with this particular entity in the rest of the house. It only seems to stay in her closet. I was cleaning the bathroom and brought some bleach and Windex into the room when I saw something dart out of her open closet. I damn near dropped everything. That's a big no-no. Ain't no way that thing was supposed to be coming out of the closet. It had never happened before. That same day, our dogs, a pit bull and a Jack Russell, went ballistic and started growling, barking at and chasing things across the house that we couldn't see. Now, I'm not about anything that the dogs would want to tear apart, so I noped out of there. Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm not about anything that dogs would want to tear apart, so I noped out of there. Throughout the following month, the activity continued. There were odd smells, things moving, and noises and shadows. It seemed that when that thing came out, activity amped up. We're known for having loads of activity and such, but nothing like this. Since then, it's calmed down. This last one kind of puts whatever noises and shadows previously experienced to shame. Honestly, this experience was at the end of the last summer again, 2017. My mom and I were in her room chatting. One of my sisters had taken the dogs out, and we had made pallets on my mom's floor for them, as they don't like sleeping in my room. While she was out there with the dogs, my other sister had gotten into her pallet, and we joked that she was jealous about the blankets that her sister had. It was easy banter, and I didn't feel like anything could go wrong. But wrong it went. My mom and I went to clean up the bathroom. My dad was on his way home, and my brother in his room. My sister was still outside with the dogs. Coming out of the bathroom, I noticed that the other pallet was moving, as if somebody were under the blankets, trying to get comfortable. I pointed it out to my mom, who laughed and commented, "Abby, you didn't have to steal her blankets." The moving continued, and Distinct hands were lifting the blankets up. It looked like a moderately large person was under it. She didn't respond. Abigail! I had dropped my tone trying to get a response from her. It wasn't like her to ignore our mother. From across the room, she sat up from her blankets on her pallet, pulling her earbuds out and looking irritated. What? The blankets had stopped, and now they were laying still. If you tell me two moderately sized people can't fit through a small door at full speed at the same time, I'll argue every time, because as we were concerned, 3 seconds flat halfway across the house to get away from whatever that thing was still not fast enough. Since that experience, I've definitely calmed down with reacting to things. I mean, after that, seeing shadows and hearing things moving in my room are relatively weak. I have lots of questions, more than I have answers. It's confusing, especially with so many different energies and spirits that are here. I just felt that someone should know. You know, not many people believe us. Thanks for listening to my small rant. I hope all goes well and that everything you guys are facing goes over smoothly. I know Tim has been sick with bronchitis. I was there a month ago. I feel you, dude, and I hope that clears up. Have fun, guys, and that comes from Savannah. Thank you very much, Savannah. Very sweet to hear from you, and we always appreciate the stories. Remember, you can email in your stories to dave@darknessradio.com. dave@darknessradio.com. And for those of you that have been asking, how do you get your story featured on Parashare? Well, write me up a nice narrative story. It's got to be a real story. I want to know your real life experience. But if you can write it as a narrative, as though you're reading a novel, I want to know the sounds and the atmosphere of it and walk us through. And usually it's a good 2 or 3 page story that we use for theater of the mind. So again, if you've got a really cool paranormal encounter, creepy, heartwarming, scary, animal ghosts, Ouija board, whatever, you can email it in to us. You can also email if it's UFO related, alien abductions, black-eyed kids, any kind of stories you've experienced dealing with the paranormal. Just email them in to me. All right, here's our next story. Let's see what we've got here. Hello to both of you. I hope that's fair enough. From Ottawa, Canada. I've had something weird happen to me, and I can't find any explanation other than that my Bigfoot air freshener is, I don't know, alive, possibly haunted. I put this air freshener in my car when I purchased the car in 2014. I got the Bigfoot as a gag gift. I thought it was funny. I want to believe, so I hung it over the rearview mirror. Fast forward to 2017, everything has been normal with the air freshener so far. Its color is faded, its pine needle smell is long gone, but one morning on my way to work I noticed that the Bigfoot is flipped around the mirror. Now it usually hangs pretty low, quiet Tim, and it would be impossible, and that's what he wrote, not me, it would be impossible to flip it over the mirror without using your hand. The car was for sure locked, and in fact, my wallet was accidentally left in the console on the car, or of the car, the night before, and it was still there with everything in it. There was no sign that anyone had been in my car, other than the flipped Bigfoot. I think this is weird, but managed to move on with my life. Then on New Year's Day, it happens again. This time, instead of being flipped over the mirror, the Bigfoot's arm is hooked over the string from which it hangs. You actually have to turn the Bigfoot upside down in order to accomplish this. And again, this couldn't happen without someone physically doing it. Believe me when I say, I've tried every way to debunk this. It's so weird and seemingly innocent, I just don't know what to think about it. Thanks for reading my story. I hope it doesn't take you 10 years to get to it, but thanks either way. Let me know if you have any theories, and that comes from Jonathan. Jonathan, I'm looking at the pictures. I see how it is, and yeah, he hangs quite low, and to have wrapped around, and folks, just so you can imagine, hanging from the rearview mirror, and so it's hanging down maybe about 5 inches, 6 inches from the rearview mirror, and in the next photograph he sent me, it's like it's been wound around the middle part of the rearview mirror, and now it's hanging so his head is actually up into the mirror section. So that's quite bizarre. And then in the next one, he's almost doing an Aaron Goodwin big steppin' move with the way the air freshener is positioned. It's hanging there, but the other loop is going underneath his arm, so he's kind of tilted back in a big steppin' move. Yeah, that's weird. I don't think that necessarily is haunted, but maybe something in the car likes playing with it, or it's trying to give you a hint, Jonathan, that you stink. It's time to change the air freshener. I mean, I'm not calling you out on it, sir. I'm just saying that's maybe what the spirits are telling you. G'day, Tim and Dave from sunny Australia. That's the way this email begins. I listen to your show when I'm at work. It helps me make the days more interesting. I've always been a fan of the paranormal, but I've never experienced anything truly out of the ordinary until recently. 3 years ago, my wife and I bought a house and moved in with our 2 boys, who were 2 and 3. The house had a nice sunroom attached to the back that adjoined the study area, which I would use for my computer work. We decided the sunroom would make a great playroom for the kids, as they could make a bit of a mess without messing up the whole house. The kids loved the room, playing in it all the time, and as expected, it became the noisiest room in the house. As it turns out, it would also be the noisiest room at night as well. Not long after moving in, I would start seeing a young boy in the sunroom. Sometimes it would be out of the corner of my eye as I sat at my computer, and other times it would be a reflection in one of the many glass windows. I initially thought it was one of my own boys playing around, but when I checked on the sunroom, I would always find it empty. Over time, I would see the figure and then check out where my kids were, often finding them playing far, far away from the sunroom, or on 2 occasions sleeping soundly in their beds. One night, when I swore I saw a clear shape of a boy looking into a toy box, I noticed that the image was a few years older looking than my own children, probably about 6 or so. I became certain then that it wasn't my kids sneaking around, but an actual apparition of some kind. I wasn't scared at all of the idea of having a potential ghost in my house, and whenever I saw him, I always felt a certain curiosity. Well, one night while working on my computer, I thought I might try to talk to the boy. I just casually spoke to the empty sunroom, and said it was okay to play with the toys in the toy box and that I was sure there'd be something fun in there. I got no response, but that night it wasn't too long until the musical toys would randomly begin playing. There was one particular toy, a musical bus, that the ghost seemed to enjoy, and sometimes it would play 4 to 5 times in a night. During the day, I would check out the bus and give it little bumps, thinking that surely a random vibration was causing the music to get triggered. But it always stayed silent until I pressed the buttons quite firmly. I was sure that the ghostly boy had found his favorite toy and was playing with it while we slept. This went on for a few months, and I always found it quite fascinating. Then, one night, again working late, but this time having had a few whiskeys, I started conversing more with the ghost. I asked if he enjoyed playing in the toys, but got no response. I said it was okay to play if he wanted to, and within a few minutes, the bus played its tune. I said a few more things, asking if he liked the bus and if he was happy with the playroom. Every time I finished asking a question, the bus would play its tune. I was amused, but was worried all the noise would wake up my own children. So I firmly told the ghost that the noise had to stop now, as it was getting disruptive. While my intent was just to get the ghost to be quiet for that particular night, it seemed that the ghost mistook me and never played with the toys again. The bus that he seemed to like playing with so much stopped working after that. Despite putting in new batteries, I've not seen or heard the ghost for 2 years now. I hope the ghost is happy wherever he's gone, but honestly, it's a little sad that he's still not with us. I always wondered how he came to be here, but I guess I'll never know. Keep up the good podcasts, and thanks for keeping me entertained, and that is from Chris. Well, Chris, thank you very much for tuning in and sharing your story. You know, it could be that maybe whatever child or whatever entity was there finally found its way. Maybe another spirit came and helped collect it and bring it home. I'm not quite sure, but at least the good news is the spirit seems to have crossed and is no longer in your home. All right, our next story. Let's go here. Hi, Tim and the bald one. Oh, I see how this is. I have a couple of stories from my childhood that may be of interest for the show. Living in an older house is awesome. We started our journey in a tiny coastal town in Oregon. The house was cheap and had that haunted look, but I was too young at the time to realize it. Many good years, but it had some things going on there that were comparable to Amityville. I swear. Okay, so it never got violent, nor will I try to sensationalize it, being that it was about 100 years old when we moved in back in the early 90s. Naturally, it had plenty of people die in it. Some tragically, some unexpected, and some expected, I'm sure, but we never really looked into it. The first thing we ran into was noises coming from the ceiling. The West Coast isn't big on attics, but even less so on basements. But with flat ceilings and pointy roofs, there's still space up there, just not really used for storage, just kind of emptiness. So naturally, hearing something big walk around up there was rather surprising. Everything from discernible footsteps to dragging sounds we heard up there. We all agreed that was neat. My mom and grandma were both quite open-minded to ghosts, and I hadn't been influenced by movies to think of them as scary yet, and it did nothing but make noise, so it wasn't about to change that. This is where things start to get weird. The house attracted animals. Now, it's a rural area, so obviously some animals would come by, but I'm talking about in the house. Numerous times we found snakes in the bathroom and kitchen, huge rats. I even found a crab in there once. Now, it was an old house, like I said, but with grandmother so fearful of snakes, you couldn't even say the word snake around her. We needed to make at least the snakes stop. We called in exterminators, general contractors, anyone we could think of, and despite being old, no one could find a way that the animals of that size were getting in. It was old, but it was solid. Eventually, it was time to move up to a better house, the one in the next story, in fact. But that was one thing that whatever animal-loving, crawl-space-living ghosties did not like hearing, and where this story takes a bit of a scary or at least a bit of a grotesque turn. While eating dinner one night, we all happened to glance at the serving plate in the middle of the dining room table, just for a few seconds. In those seconds, we saw a maggot drop onto the food. We looked up, and we see maggots had eaten their way through the ceiling, lots of them, and were slowly making their way to where they would fall down into the dining room table, spot on right over the food. There was no smell of anything up there having died, but that was when we knew it was time to speed things up and get the hell out of there. We had a perfectly nice house to move to, and it was haunt-free, right? No. From the first time we moved in, I began seeing what seemed to me as a very elderly man. He'd be pacing around in our office, which was the previous owner's bedroom, occasionally venturing as far as the hallway outside his room. My mom apparently found out in the buying process that the last owner had died in his room, that he was what I'd consider elderly at the time, and that, yes, indeed, that room had been his room. Again, this one was never threatening, it just existed or coexisted. He was really big into amateur radio, and it took us a while to take out his equipment as none of us were fans. I'd be very curious what kind of readings we would pick up in his radio room. I wouldn't be surprised if there were some voices or radio transmissions coming from there. Well, you can certainly check it. Just get a Shack Hack radio or a Spirit Box. Or I think there's even some of those available on the app stores on Google Play and iTunes. You should be able to find like a ghost radio app and play it in there. But yeah, if he was so into radio, that might fascinate him and intrigue him to speak with you. Anyway, a couple of years after we moved in, we started smelling something terrible coming from under the house. A very tight crawl space was there just to get at pipes, wires, and such. Being the only guy in the family, and it being the mid-90s, it was my job to go under the house, find the dead animal, and drag it out so it doesn't attract anything. There was nothing rotting under the house like it smelled. Instead, the smell seemed to come from a box under there. I dragged it out, and it was wooden and full of beautiful cut rocks. We used them to decorate around the house for years, bringing most of them with us when we moved from there. After removing the box, the smell immediately went away, and according to the current owners, it and the elderly man in his room have never returned. Well, that's very cool, Dan. Thanks for sharing your story. A lot of activity going on there. I wonder if it was trying to draw your attention to find the box, and it was using a smell that would make you go down there to look for it. That's very cool. Fascinating stuff. Love your stories, folks. Let's see where we're going to go next. Dear Dave and Tim, I just listened to the interview with Stephanie Arnold. Wow, what a story. I just used the link on your page to order her book. I'll probably be ordering more copies to hand them out. Her story needs to get out there. And for all of you, you can always go to darknessradio.com, click on our Killer Deals link. It'll take you directly into our Amazon shop where we hand select all of the guests, and all of the links and books and everything that you hear mentioned on the show are on that page for you. So you can find it. And when you buy it through that link, a very small portion of every one of your purchases goes back to help us with our administrative fees for the show. So make sure when you make your purchases through Amazon, you continue to use our link. Even if it's not one of the items that we have on our page, if you use our link, it still goes to us as an affiliate program and helps us out. So it doesn't cost you anything extra. There's no extra fees or bills associated with it. It just goes a long way to help out your buddies on the show. All right. We'll get back into the email. Her story was the push I needed to share a story that I've only ever shared with one other person. I thought about sharing it a little while back after you said something in regards to dream visitation, that if people who were considering suicide knew that things were great on the other side, it might push them over the edge and encourage them to take their own life. I've had 3 notable dream visitation experiences. The first was with my parents and took place in the church we attended when I was growing up. The second was with a friend who died in his 40s after a brief battle with a very aggressive cancer that took place on his backyard deck. I can't recall much about the exact conversation that occurred in either one of those 2 dreams, but I can vividly recall the places and the positive feeling that they both left with me. The positivity is a common theme that I've heard with almost every story of a dream visitation. However, I have never heard anyone share what happened with the 3rd dream visitation I had. I can feel myself getting ill just thinking about this, but I think I need to tell the story, so I'll begin at the start. In late 2000, I took a management job at a new company. About a year later, my boyfriend, who eventually became my husband, took a job in a different department. I'll call him John. Shortly after that, a friend I'll call Sam took a job in the same department as John. Sam was a military veteran. He served during the first Gulf War in the 1990s and was honorably discharged after suffering a closed head wound. By all outward appearances, he had fully recovered from his injuries, but he did have lasting damage that couldn't be seen on the outside. Not as much was known back then about brain injuries, and the public was just becoming aware of the serious nature of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. We were also years away from removing some of the stigma of suicide, and nobody spoke about the high rate of suicide among vets. I think you see where this story is going. He spoke candidly to some of us, his friends, about the struggle he went through every day, the headaches, the simmering, illogical rage, his inability at times to filter what he was saying, the fact that he could remember what kind of person he used to be and knowing he would never be that person again. Even with those issues, he was a very dedicated and conscientious worker. He strove to always be perfect, and he pushed those around him to be likewise. He had a hard time showing it, but he really cared about his coworkers and the employees who worked under him. He preached the importance of teamwork and that we would all look out for each other. You could easily sense why he thrived in the military, and if it hadn't been for his injury, he probably would have rose through the ranks. By the same token, he had a hard time adjusting to change or unforeseen circumstances. He could be short-tempered, and any changes to his routine would grate on his nerves. A simple printer malfunction would set him on edge. He couldn't just roll with the punches. My husband John could manage being around him much easier than most people. He could redirect him easily. Other members of the management team there were aware of his issues and could make accommodations for him. Unfortunately, of course, like any large office, there were office politics. Not everyone was as understanding or sympathetic. After working together for 4 years, I left the company for a better job opportunity. My husband stayed. I suspect that he stayed partially out of loyalty to his friend. John is just that kind of person. About a year after I left, John took a couple weeks off. While he was there was an incident that led Sam to getting fired. Another coworker told us that an employee who was gunning for Sam's job provoked Sam and he lost control. While it wasn't a physical attack, he did use some language that was not workplace appropriate. Of course, this happened while higher-ups from the corporate office were present, and to this day, John feels guilty for taking the time off. Losing his job was way too much for Sam to handle. Within a week, he overdosed on prescription pain pills. About a year later, I had a dream. It was one of the most vivid dreams I've ever had. I was back at my office. I went down the hall to the main office door. The only person I saw there was Sam. I greeted him like I always used to. I was aware that he is dead, and I instantly thought, I'm here to say goodbye. At first, Sam greeted me like old times, but then he frowned and asked me what I was doing there and if John was with me. I told him John wasn't with me. I just stopped by. He started getting angry. He accused me of stealing John's key card. He yelled at me, "This is a secure facility. You can't be here." And I was flabbergasted. I tried to talk to him. I tried reminiscing with him, hoping to jog his memory. I did all I could to think to calm him down but he would only get angrier than I'd ever seen him. I finally told him I would leave, but I just needed to stop and use the restroom as a way to buy some time. I wanted to think of something to do or say to help him realize that he's dead. He doesn't need to be at work anymore, that he could move on. Before I could come back out of the restroom, he started pounding on the door, saying that he was going to call security, and if they didn't get there fast enough, he'd drag me out by himself. That he had work to do, and he was getting one of those headaches, and it was all my fault. I walked out, told him goodbye, and then I woke up. I'm still disturbed by that dream. It's so sad to think that even in death, he's still suffering headaches and rage episodes, and while it wasn't a bad job, it wasn't anything that anyone should have to do for eternity. He was no saint, but he deserves better. He deserved to be his old self, friendly and lighthearted and outgoing. I know that some people think that visitation dreams are wishful thinking on our part. If that's true, then why haven't I had a follow-up dream where he's finally enjoying the sweet release of death? It's been a decade already, and I have not had any such dream about him letting me know he's okay. Major depression runs in my family, and there have been a few more suicides. Are all of my loved ones who took their lives still suffering? I only told one person, my husband, a very edited version of this dream. He feels enough remorse, but as a little silver lining so that I can end us on a positive note, losing his friend was a big part of what inspired John to go back to school and change careers. He now works in a healthcare field, specializing in behavioral health. He's given public suicide prevention presentations and answers the phone for a local crisis center. He and I both volunteer work at a at-risk youth facility. We still miss him and pray for him, but his life and death have touched many lives. Thank you for the work that you do and giving people an outlet to share their stories. Sorry if I rambled. Sincerely, Jane. Not my real name either. All right, Jane. Well, thank you very much for sharing, and that is a very personal story. Maybe he's still there. They say, as in life, so in death. And maybe he's still there because that's where he felt best. He was able to control things. He was good at what he did. And maybe that's just kind of what keeps him there and keeps him driving. I'm not sure. I hope, and maybe the reason that it faded away and you never had another visitation dream was maybe that light did come for him. Maybe he did work through the issues that he had so that he could move on and just focus on that. I think that's probably the best way to imagine your friend and their story. Thank you again for sharing that. I know that was very personal and deep. All right. We've got a couple of stories from this author. Let's see here. JC writes in, "Hey guys, fantastic job keeping people entertained and staying objective, even when reading some ridiculous yet hilarious news stories. Many long nights in my patrol car has been passed listening to you guys. I have several experiences, all rather short, so instead of teasing, I'll just include them all and let you decide what interests you. First off, when I was a kid in Hawaii, maybe 7 or 8, I lived in an old house near a river. One night my dad and I were alone in the house, sitting in the kitchen when we heard footsteps in the living room, clearly evenly paced and coming towards us. My dad jumped up, turned on the living room lights, and the sound stopped. My mother, when she came home, thought we were just both idiots. Now, not long after, I was there by myself and again heard the exact same sound. Having a fantastic instinct for self-preservation, I ran outside and sat on the front steps and stayed there till my parents came home. Pretty sure my mom still thought I was a bit touched in the head. Recently, I went back there to show my wife the home, and it has since been torn down, so no investigating that for me. Shortly after that, we moved to a different island to live off the grid in a heavily forested area. At this new house, and by new I mean recently built, I became plagued with sleep paralysis. This, of course, was before I had any idea what sleep paralysis was. This lasted until I was in my mid-20s. It always occurred the same way, and I knew when it was going to happen because while asleep, I would wake up to a tingling vibration throughout my body. I would then fall back asleep and immediately wake up again. Then a third time. Each and every time I knew the third time was when I would begin to see things in my room or to be whisked away to be somewhere I've never been. Quite a few times I found myself standing in front of several robed figures, seated high on pedestals like alcoves, almost as if I was in a courtroom. Eventually I learned that this was a condition known as sleep paralysis, but it made it no less terrifying as I fought with everything. I had to move and wake up. Alien? Well, let me mention that one to you first. I think that really has more to do with astral projection. So many people believe that we're projecting during our dream cycles, and our soul or our essence, our energy has left our body. And that may be why sometimes when your body wakes up, this consciousness has not fully returned to the body to manipulate it and move it. So in that sense, that presence that you feel coming towards you, maybe that's just your energy. Maybe that's just your soul self returning to the body. And part of that fear is, kind of waking up and sensing something there. Also waking up and being conscious of being outside of your body, trying to get back in. I think there's a lot that could be said for that, but fascinating either way. Thank you. Next story, alien? In my early 20s, I was deployed out in the Persian Gulf area and on board an aircraft carrier. In the middle of the morning, maybe 1 or 2 a.m., myself and my partner were on watch on the flight deck. If you've ever been out to sea, you know with no lights or to drown out the sky, the entire sky is more brilliant than can be imagined. It was during this time that my partner and I noticed a bright light pattern covering a large distance in an incredibly short amounts of time, seconds in fact. The light then suddenly shot upward and across the light then suddenly shot upward and across the sky, and it vanished. My partner and I both agreed not to tell anyone what we saw because we knew no one would believe us. Now here's another ghost story. Many years later, as a cop, I agreed to take care of my friend's animals while she was out of town, and I was on patrol. She often talked about how the strange occurrences that happened in her house, which by city record was built in 1853. City record also shows that a mere block away was a former church from that time. It was now an elementary school. The city records indicated that a graveyard may have also been maintained at that locale. Poor kids. Anyway, I was tasked with going over and feeding her dogs and letting them out. She often told me how she would have doors pulled shut, feel her bed pushed down as if someone was sitting on it. And I had even picked up what may be garbled voices using a digital recorder. However, I'm no investigator, and with a house that old and drafty, who knows? Anyway, one night I was leaving through the front door. I felt the doorknob forcibly leave my hand as it shut. Naturally, being skeptical, I reopened the door, and it shut several times, but was never able to recreate that action. I still chalk it up possibly to drafts or suction from poorly insulated or closed windows, but again, who knows? Finally, in the Sally House in Atchison, Kansas, I hosted there with my family last year for a self-guided ghost tour. I had the previous week met one of the guides who encouraged me to come to see it. I had grown up watching sightings and other shows about the Sally House. How would I turn that down? In the basement of the home, the guide was using a voice box app. Not sure which one. I think he was surprised to see me actually show up, and he quickly used me by asking out loud, "There's a man in this room." And I was the only man. "Can you tell us what his job is?" For a few seconds, unintelligible words and sounds were muttered from the voice box. And then suddenly, loud and clear enough for all people in the room to hear, and several people repeated what I said. It said, "Cop." The really freaky thing is that my stepdaughter, with different and unusual last name, that was enough to make out my wife and daughter uncomfortable. That was enough. Okay, so I'm sorry, your letter's a little jumbled here, Jason. You must have been doing this on a cell phone. There's a man in the room. I was the only male. Can you tell us what his job is? A few seconds of unintelligible words and sounds were muttered. Then the voice box suddenly and loud and clear enough for the entire room to hear, said the word cop. To further add to the mystery, the guide then asked if they could tell him anyone's name in the room. Again, after a few words, some mumbled, some clear. My daughter's surname was clearly said. This really freaked us out and freaked my stepdaughter out. She has a very different and unusual last name, and that was enough to make my wife and daughter uncomfortable, and we left shortly after. After that, my wife told me that in every room she went to, that a voice box within, she heard her name come out of it shortly after entering. Just to allay suspicion, at no time did I ever share my name nor my family's names with the guide. I'm not sure of the science behind those voice box things, but having multiple coincidences is enough to make me lean towards being hesitant to spend tonight there. Although we do plan on it anyway. Thanks for reading my long letter. Hopefully it entertained you as much as your show entertains me. And that comes from Jason. Oh, but he's not done. Oh, no. Being the steadfast listener that he is and knowing that it drives us crazy when we only get parts of their stories, he gave me 2 more short ones. Hey, guys, still me, Jason. In my novel that I wrote to you earlier, I forgot to include 2 stories revolving around my father who passed away. First, he passed away just prior, a few months to my son being born, so he never got to meet my son. However, as an infant, as infants do, he would often stare off over our shoulders, and we could see him following something with his eyes and head, and it would make him laugh and giggle, though we ourselves never saw it. My father, who was a wood carver, had given me a hand-carved tiki-shaded lamp. These were similar to Native American totems as their spiritual, and this was believed to represent gods. My son, who may have been 2 or 3 at the time, was seen by my wife laughing and giggling at the lamp, which is not very kid-friendly visage. My son then leaned over and kissed the lamp. My wife was able to capture that one on her phone. Not long after that, I had a dream visitation from my father. I'd come to accept his death, and though the mourning never truly goes away, it didn't haunt me like it used to. One night I was dreaming that my dad was sitting on the center of a room. The walls and such looked metallic, and I had a feeling, though no reason to believe, we were on a spaceship of some sort. Maybe it was the metallic walls or the bright lights that made me feel that way. I was led to stand in front of him by someone I can't absolutely recall. All around us were several doors. Through each door I was able to see different landscapes. My dad told me it was time and that he was leaving. He didn't explain where or what he meant. I vaguely remember hugging him and then waking up. I personally, though, am skeptical of all things, also believe that anything that isn't proven impossible is possible. So I don't dismiss anything outright. I just allow it to be. Since this was my visit, my son had never again, or since that visit, my son had never again acted as if someone was around, nor have I had the feeling of my dad's presence nearby. Okay, hopefully my old brain remembered all the stories this time. Keep it up, guys. Tim, good luck with your health. That comes from Jason. We're going to take a quick break, and Tim's rifling through the supernatural news. We will get started with that in a moment. You're listening to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness.
Beyond the Darkness.
Hey, we're back. This is the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. Along with me over at the Supernatural News Desk, Mr. Tim Dennis. He's been rifling through those news stories, trying to pick out the best ones. We've had a lot of weird stories come across this past week. I do want to make a quick mention. I do have some of my DVDs and books still available if you're interested in the Paranormal Challenge Complete mini-series, all 3 discs, all of the episodes in one set. I'll autograph them. $30 for the DVD set. My book is only $10. It's The Other Side, A Guide to Ghost Hunting and the Paranormal. Autograph those for you at $10 as well. And you can get both of them for $40 plus $3.95 shipping and handling, or you can get either one of them, $30 for the DVD plus $3.95 shipping and handling, or the book for $10 plus $3.95 shipping and handling anywhere in the continental United States. So if you're interested, just email me, Dave@darknessradio.com. That's Dave@darknessradio.com, and I'll get one of those out to you right away. Joining me on the line, Mr. Tim Dennis. We got a lot of stories to rifle through. Let's get into it, Mr. D. Where are we going to begin today in the world of supernatural news?
Mr. D, that's going to get me some attention from the ladies. Thank you very much. A supermoon earthquake, Dave. This is the question mark added at the end of that statement.
That sounds like a sexual maneuver.
Yeah, it does.
The supermoon earthquake?
How would you like to take part in the supermoon earthquake? A mystic is warning of a magnitude 7 quake from Tuesday as the planets line up. Now, it's not the first time they've ever lined up.
No.
It's not like this is a new thing, but a researcher who claims to be able to predict when major earthquakes will happen claims planetary alignments around next Wednesday's blue blood supermoon. Boy, that's not too ominous. Could cause a massive earthquake as soon as Tuesday.
Yikes.
Yeah, I know. A self-styled Dutch earthquake predictor, Frank Hoogerbeets.
Frank Hoogerbeets.
You know, if you backwards his name, it's Booger Heats.
That's nice.
Just saying. Issued the warning in video, uploaded to his YouTube channel and website, which I believe is pronounced Ditrianum.
Okay.
I didn't even get near him.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Jeez.
He warned that around next week's supermoon event from January 30th to February 2nd, that there will be planetary amplifications, which he described as critical. He said from January 30th to February 2nd will be more critical with the possibility of a 7-pointer because of an amplification here on the 30th. Also on the 31st, with the full moon, there is also lunar eclipse and also called blue moon because it is the second full moon of the month. But a blue moon or a lunar eclipse or a full moon does not necessarily cause a seismic increase. It requires obvious amplifications like we see here to cause a seismic increase on our planets. And this is a significant amplification. And as you can read on the website, a high 6 to 7 magnitude earthquake may occur between the 30th and February 2nd. Mr. Hoogerbeets, or as I like to call him, Booger Heats, uses a non-scientifically recognized way of predicting earthquakes based on planetary alignments with Earth amid claims the increased electromagnetic force causes stress on fault lines on Earth. He said, contrary to what many people assume, we do not believe that gravity is responsible for larger earthquakes at the time of planetary alignments. Or as I like to tack onto the end of it, gravity.
Wow.
You know, yeah.
That's hateful.
Well, you know, we like to dismiss gravity wherever we can because who should believe in that? I mean, flat Earth, hell yeah. You know, gravity, hell no. You know, why not just throw every scientific theory out the window? Rather, we believe that electromagnetic waves affect Earth's crust on an atomic level, causing specific frequencies to be amplified. Not every alignment causes a seismic increase, but almost every seismic increase, or magnitude 6 plus, is caused by one or many planetary alignments, as according to Hoogerbeets, which you can find now on P. Diddy's new album. The supermoon was 14% bigger and 30% brighter than usual, making it appear closer to Earth. His system has been ridiculed by mainstream scientists, but he continues to gain followers on his YouTube channel and website. He told express.co.uk, full moons and thus supermoons can greatly affect seismic activity. In fact, some of the larger quakes occurred around the full moon, like the magnitude 9.3 on December 26, 2004, and the magnitude 9.2 on March 28th of 1964 in Alaska. But it also greatly depends on the planetary positions that coincide with the full moon. He claims to have previously predicted a string, Dave, of major earthquakes across the globe, but is ridiculed by mainstream scientists to say the position of the planets has no impact on seismic activity. But Mr. Hoogerbeets, my favorite last name of this week, has made several predictions with distinctly mixed results. There have been significant quakes after some of his warnings, but he is no longer specific about where they will strike on the exact day. In December 2015, he was mocked and ridiculed and shamed and put with a scarlet E I made that last part up. After predicting a powerful magnitude 8 earthquake that could change the world forever would strike on the 11th or 12th of the month, only for it to fail to materialize. It also falled as well. So should we fear his latest warning? Well, Mr. Hooger Beats admits he also relies on messages from spirits, crop circle formations, and so-called key Earth dates in order to predict when earthquakes will strike. But other than that, it's totally science. Astronomer Phil Plait, who writes for New Scientist, previously said of his predictions, "Let me be clear. No, it won't. It can't." Well, Phil, way to shoot him down. There is simply no way an alignment of planets can cause an earthquake on Earth. It's literally impossible, said Mr. Plait.
Is it?
Well, see, that's what the New Scientist guy says. Mr. Hooger Beats otherwise says seismologists needed to take note because whenever the 3 objects in our solar system lined up, there was a significant earthquake anytime from the day before to 1 or 2 days afterwards. Mr. Hooker Beats then said, "Take that. I got something else lined up in your direction. Hooah!" No, he didn't say that, Dave. I just thought that would be a really cool ending to the story.
Yeah, you were wrong. But anyway, where are we going to go next?
Oh, well, in that case, let's move on. The Winchester House movie comes out this Friday.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does. And there's a lot of talk, mainly because, it's the first horror movie that Helen Mirren is doing. That's what I've been told by the mainstream media. And I believe everything the mainstream media says.
Sure.
The true story of that creepy house in Helen Mirren's new movie, Winchester. We've covered it here on the show before, but hell, there's a story right in front of me, so let's read it, shall we? In Winchester, one of the many new scary-looking horror movies coming out this year, Helen Mirren will play a woman named Sarah Winchester, who spent her fortune building a mansion for ghosts. Yes, sounds crazy, but crazier still that Sarah Winchester was a real woman who really did build a mansion for ghosts, or at least a mansion that people thought she built for ghosts, but maybe just built for herself. Before you see the movie, we should probably go over the history of the real thing. Sarah Lockwood Pardee was born in 1840 in Connecticut, and in 1862 she married William Wirt Winchester, son of the owner of Winchester Repeating Arms Company. Not like he had repeating arms growing out of his body. No, we're talking guns, kids. Those fun things that shoot bullets. They had one child together, Annie, who died just over a month after she was born, and William's father died in 1880, and William died in 1881, leaving Sarah as the heir to their $20 million rifle fortune. In 2018 dollars, that equates to more than $450 million. So in other words, they's rich. Sarah bought the property that would become the Winchester Mystery House in 1886 and continued construction on it until her death in 1922. There are various theories as to why she continued working on the house for so long, but one of the most popular involved her interest in spiritualism. According to one legend, Sarah believed that her daughter and husband's untimely deaths were retribution for all the people killed by Winchester rifles. Oh boy, there's a theory, especially after a medium told her that her blood fortune was cursed. Espousers of this theory believe that she made the house so large so there would be room enough for all the souls of Winchester victims. She also switched bedrooms within the house so any alleged ghosts would have a more difficult time finding her. Though that's certainly the spookiest explanation, some historians believe that the house was just a strange means of philanthropy. Janan Bohm, who worked as a historian at the house for 40 years, thinks she may have built the house as a way to keep so many people in the area employed. She had a social conscience, and she did try to give back, Bohm said, or rather told the Los Angeles Times last year. The house in itself was her biggest social work of all. After her husband's death, Sarah did fund a tuberculosis clinic at Yale University, which still exists today as the Winchester Chest Clinic. Wow, there's irony for you. The Winchester Chest Clinic. I could have used them last week. Sarah's mysterious motivation for building it aside, the house is objectively nuts. That's in the article. Sarah didn't hire any one architect to oversee construction and added rooms and features haphazardly. So it's kind of a patchwork mansion. That's kind of cool. So there are lots of weird elements to the house, staircases that lead to nowhere, doors that lead to nowhere, and windows that look into other rooms. It's kind of crazy that way. It was 7 stories tall and had more than 200 rooms before parts of it were destroyed in the San Francisco earthquake of 1906. It is currently 4 stories tall and had 160 rooms. And at one point, Sarah actually built over another room so that she had forgotten was there. And according to the legend, she cannot actually find the house's original 8 rooms. That would be a problem. Those who prefer the paranormal side of things think Sarah built all these rooms and misleading passageways to confuse the ghosts who were tailing her. And whether that's true or not, she did have some unusual decor predilections. Pardon me. She incorporated the number 13 throughout the house, 13 panes in a window, 13 steps in a staircase, etc., and also had spider webs included on various window panes. In the ballroom, there are stained glass windows with quotes from Shakespeare, and there's a room called the Witch's Cap that's so oddly shaped it causes a weird acoustic effect, sort of like surround sound. Oh, wow. Late 1800s surround sound would be awesome.
It is pretty cool from what I've heard.
Yeah,
Chris Fleming has had some weird experiences there, and the audio he said there was really kind of weird, too. There was just how some places we've gone into, it's like you walk into a room and it's like muted, like it's just dead air.
Yeah.
I've heard it's almost like living, breathing building itself. It's kind of weird. I'm interested to see what they do with the movie on it.
That's very cool. If ghosts are a thing, then the Winchester Mystery House would be the place for them to set up shop. The house's official website claims that staff and visitors have experienced strange phenomena, and according to one tour guide, an apparition named Clyde often appears in the basement near the coal chute. Ghost Adventures filmed an episode at the house in 2011, had some creepy encounters there, and Bohm has shared a handful of stories with the Bay Area newspaper Mercury News. Staff have reported seeing a spectral handyman, I could use one of those around here, fixing the fireplace and hearing a woman sigh near one of the bedrooms. Parts of the house are now open to the public, so if you find yourself in San Jose, you can explore the property for around $40, which isn't too bad for a tour. The house also offers Friday the 13th flashlight tours on Friday the 13th, of course, because they wouldn't do it on the 14th. That wouldn't be Friday the 13th, well, would it? For those of you who are really hoping you'll see a ghost and host private events like weddings on the grounds, now, if it says here in the article, if you excuse me, I have to go see about canceling a deposit. That sounds dirty. I would never say that to you people. I would, but only on special occasions. There you go. That's just an awkward ending to a story.
Very awkward. Where are we heading off to next?
This next story is about the world's most powerful acoustic tractor beam, which could pave the way for levitating humans, in case you ever needed to get a relative off your couch and out the door.
Well, isn't that interesting? Because that's what they claim alien technology does, right? Yeah. Lifting people up, beaming them into the house. Not beaming them like Star Trek, but kind of levitating and lifting them, or cows or goats or whatever's being stolen.
And into their ships to take you away.
Exactly. So what's this tractor beam? Tell me, where is it at? How can I get one?
Well, it's easy. It's $19.95. You find it on eBay. Acoustic tractor beams use the power of sound to hold particles in midair, and unlike magnetic levitation, they can grab most solids or liquids. For the first time, the University of Bristol engineers have shown it is possible to stably trap objects larger than the wavelength of sound in an acoustic tractor beam. This discovery opens the door to the manipulation of drug capsules or microsurgical implements within the body. Containerless transportation of delicate large samples is now a possibility and could lead to levitating humans. So there you go, magic. Researchers previously thought that the acoustic tractor beam was fundamentally limited to levitating small objects, as all the previous attempts to trap particles larger than the wavelength had been unstable, with objects spinning uncontrollably. This is because rotating sound fields transfers some of its spinning motion to the objects, causing them to orbit faster and faster until they are ejected. The new approach, published in Physical Review Letters, uses rapid fluctuating acoustic vortices, which is the proper way to say it, Dave, which are similar to tornadoes of sound, which are made of a twister-like structure with loud sound surrounding a silent core. The Bristol researchers discovered that the rate of rotation can be finely controlled by rapidly changing the twisting direction of the vortices. This stabilizes the tractor beam. Ooh, just like Star Wars. They were then able to increase the size of the silent core, allowing it to hold larger objects, working with ultrasonic waves at a pitch of 40 kilohertz, a similar pitch of that which only bats can hear. How do they know that? Maybe somebody else could hear it too. The researchers held a 2-centimeter polystyrene sphere in the tractor beam. This sphere measures over 2 acoustic wavelengths in size and is the largest yet trapped in a tractor beam. The research suggests that in the future, much larger objects could be levitated in this way. Dr. Azir Marzo, the lead author on the paper from Bristol's Department of Mechanical Engineering, said acoustic researchers have been frustrated by the size limits for years, so it's satisfying to find a way to overcome it. He said, I think it opens doors to many new applications. Dr. Mihai Kalip, who is the senior research associate who developed the simulations, explained in the future with more acoustic power, it will be possible to hold even larger objects. This was only thought to be possible using lower pitches, making the experiment audible and dangerous for humans. Bruce Drinkwater, who has the coolest last name of all this episode, said, he's the professor of ultrasonics from the Department of Mechanical Engineering who supervised the work, added, acoustic tractor beams have huge potential in many applications. He said, I'm particularly excited the idea of contactless production lines where delicate objects are assembled without touching them is a possibility. There you go.
I'd love to see that. I just got to wonder, though, if you're using that kind of vibrational tonality, I wonder how that's going to affect the body overall. If you do that, is it, I'd just be afraid that could shake loose aneurysms, that could shake loose clots, that could cause a lot of issues. We'll see how science prevails in the end, but I certainly am not going to be the first to be beamed up.
It could, but I would think that they're looking at bigger objects than that. I think they're looking at actually moving huge objects with that thing.
Well, they said people too. That's what I was mentioning.
Yeah.
What's our next story, good sir?
Well, you know what? I missed this when we were talking earlier about the earthquake with the blue supermoon, but this article actually combines it with a lunar eclipse, which is talking about coming to the sky next week. They're talking about a triple threat on Wednesday, January 31st, of a supermoon, a blue moon, and a total lunar eclipse. And they're saying that the event is rare. Even without the supermoon, it's the first blue moon total lunar eclipse in the U.S. since March of 1866, less than a year after the Civil War ended, which is pretty rare. A blue moon, which occurs every 2.5 years, is another term for the second full moon in a single calendar month. January's first full moon occurred on January 1st. These 3 lunar events separately are not uncommon, but it's rare for all 3 to occur at the same time. That, according to AccuWeather meteorologist and astronomy blogger Brian Leda. Through the exact moment of this full moon, it is at 8:37 a.m. Eastern Time on January 31st. The moon will appear plenty full for a day or two before and after that. However, the moon doesn't actually appear blue, so don't go out there with your fellow Smurfs and figure you're going to see a like-minded image. As for the total lunar eclipse, it will be visible early in the morning of January 31st from western North America across the Pacific to eastern Asia. That, according to NASA. In the United States, the best view of the eclipse will be along the west coast. For skywatchers in the central and eastern U.S., only a partial eclipse will be visible since the moon will set before totality. The lunar eclipse on January 31st will be visible during moonset, according to Noah Petro, a research scientist from NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. Folks in the eastern United States, where the eclipse will be partial, will have to get up in the morning to see it. The eclipse will last almost 3.5 hours from the beginning of the partial phase at 3:48 a.m. Pacific time until it ends at 7:12 a.m. Pacific time. That, according to Sky and Telescope. Totality lasts a generous 77 minutes, so take your time, please, from 4:51 a.m. Pacific time to 6:08 a.m. Pacific time. By that time, however, the moon will have already set in the Eastern time zone. As for the weather, clear skies are forecast across the eastern and south central United States. That, according to AccuWeather. Additionally, some astronomy historians can quibble about the origin of the blue moon name. It was originally a name for a season that had 4 full moons instead of 3, a definition which was later mistakenly expanded to 2 full moons in a single month. But even the venerable publication Sky and Telescope, in which the original mistake was made decades ago, said that the second full moon in a month, misinterpretation is like a genie that can't be forced back into its bottle, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. The full moon will take on a dark reddish appearance during the eclipse. Another phrase used to describe it is a blood moon, adding to the naming confusion. This full moon was also known as the snow moon by some Native American tribes. Finally, a supermoon occurs when the full moon is at its closest point of its orbit to the Earth, which is also called the perigee. That makes the moon look extra close and extra bright, up to about 14% bigger and 30% brighter than a full moon at its farthest point from Earth, known as an apogee, that according to NASA. There you go.
Lots of moon news.
Lots of moon news. My own moon, when it sticks out of a car window, is known as a disgrace. I don't know if you know that or not, but I threw that one in there as
well. Okie dokie. Where are we going to go next?
An ancient Indian petroglyph has been depicted as mysterious twin suns in the Earth's sky. There's some interesting news out of India.
So we went from lunar to the solar side of things now.
Yeah. We're getting fancy with the whole in the sky stuff this week. That's fancy talk, Dave. Mm-hmm. Archaeologists in India believe they might have found the oldest known depiction of celestial objects and a curious example of ancient rock art. We're not talking about Eddie Van Halen depictions. The etched stone was found at the Burzahome archaeological site in India's Kashmir Valley. The stone was unearthed during a 1969 excavation, but has puzzled archaeologists ever since due to its enigmatic depiction of what appears to be 2 large objects in the sky, possibly twin suns or twin moons. Now, a new study claims that the mysterious carving may depict a particularly bright supernova, which occurred around 4500 BC. Is the Burzahome carving a record of an ancient astronomical event, or is it something weirder, which is afoot? The rock drawing appears to show 2 hunters closing in on a stag with the help of a dog beneath 2 large luminous orbs in the sky overhead. Astrophysicist Mayanik Vahia of the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research in Mumbai just published the new supernova theory after cross-referencing astronomical records with radiocarbon dating of various objects found at the Burzahome archaeological site. The 2 objects in the rock art appear to have the same brightness and appear side by side, ruling out the theory that they might depict the sun and moon. Vahia instead believes that one of the orbs could be the moon, while the other may be an extremely bright supernova, which rivaled the brightness of the moon. In his recent published study of the stone, Vahia concludes that only one supernova remnant, HB9, meets all of this criteria, and it exploded around 4500 BC with a brightness comparable to the brightness of the moon. Vahia goes on to speculate that the 2 hunters in the image might not be hunters at all, but instead represent the constellations Orion and Pisces, while the animals represent Taurus and the Andromeda galaxy. If confirmed, that theory would mean the ancient people at Burzahome possessed astronomical knowledge far more advanced than what archaeological records have previously indicated. Could this be an example of ancient astronomical knowledge, or could the stone depict something stranger? Well, a visit from 2 orb-shaped UFOs is also a possibility in this. The memories of ancient astronauts who came from a planet with twin suns is a theory as well. Or could this merely be some sort of decorative elements which have been misinterpreted by modern researchers? All these questions have been asked of the story at hand here. So there you go.
It's interesting. You know, those pictographs that they keep finding in these caves are really fascinating. But yeah, it makes you wonder, what were they depicting? What were they trying to tell us?
Yeah, very much so.
All right, what's your all right, let's get back to it. What have we got next in the world of supernatural news?
Oh gosh. Well, we'll go to entertainment, Dave, where the new BBC One thriller Requiem stars, all the stars of that show, are talking paranormal activity on the set. Now, it's not the first time we've ever heard about paranormal activity on a set of a TV show or a movie, but this one's particularly creepy. Requiem is a creepy new thriller from BBC One that centers on a mystery, a narrowing suicide, and the disappearance of a toddler 24 years ago. The drama's supernatural overtones see characters driven to the edge by unexplained occurrences and by a strange coincidence or design. That's a question mark. Quite a few spooky occurrences happened during filming, too. When the Express newspaper over in England sat down to meet the cast after a recent London screening, Downton Abbey's Brendan Coyle, Game of Thrones' Tara Fitzgerald, and Lydia Wilson of the movie Star Trek Beyond explained that they were slightly spooked during filming. Within the space of 1 week, Tara found a dead bird in her basement. Other crew members found dead birds in their gardens, and a bird flew into a crew member's windshield. There were 2 birds in my London flat at one point, flying around and freaking out, said Brendan, who's 55 years old. They were blackbirds, I think, and I had to shoo them out and shout a lot. That had to be quite the scenario. Another creepy story is told by Lydia, who plays Requiem's lead character, Matilda Gray. I woke up one morning during filming to find a load of sand in my bed in the shape of an angel, and I had no idea where the sand came from, said the actress. Coincidentally, the incidents may be, but they are a little creepy and only serve to reinforce the eeriness surrounding Requiem, a scary thriller written by Chris Merksa, co-writer of the acclaimed 2011 Australia TV drama The Slap. It centers around celebrated cellist Matilda, a rising star who is devastated by the unexpected and very gory suicide of her single mother Janice, played by No Offense's Joanna Scanlon. Upon her mother's death, Matilda discovers a connection between her mom and the disappearance decades ago of toddler Caris, a Welsh village. Confounded by this mystery, a grief-stricken Matilda heads to the fictional Welsh town of, well, they're Welsh. They don't know how to pronounce their own town, so I'm not even going to say it, Dave. With her pianist and best mate, Hal, to find out what the connection may be. That's just my shot at Welsh people. There you go. Unable to find a hotel room there, Tilly and Hal are befriended by the new heir to a seemingly haunted mansion, Dean House, outside town. The heir, Nick, invites him to stay, but Matilda, unsettled by the premises and experiences disturbing dreams that cause her to sleepwalk. Matilda is filled with grief about Janice's suicide, explains Lydia. She is now at a crossroads in her life. She can either fall apart or she can channel her sadness into an obsessive search for her true identity. In the town, she finds a community rife with buried secrets. The drama was filmed mostly in Newport, in Snowdonia National Park, with interior shot in Cardiff. Brendan Coyle, best known as valet Mr. Bates in Downton Abbey, plays Kendrick, the cop who investigates Caris's disappearance back in 1994, has now retired but stayed on in the town. He's a single father to his 19-year-old son who is suffering from a terminal illness and is also close to Caris's mother, Rose, played by Claire Rushbrook. This is a community still suffering in the aftermath of the crime, and there's some hostility to Matilda's arrival, explains Brendan. Some people are trying to restructure their lives and carry on, but there's a scar that doesn't go away. He is still very close to the community, and I think there's something in him about not leaving the scene of the crime as well in the way that he thinks it needs to be solved. The twists and turns in Requiem are very bold. Tara Fitzgerald plays one of the mysterious locals, antiques dealer Sylvia, who has designs on the furniture in Dean House that may now be up for grabs. Tara explains that she's very original and idiosyncratic, but also enigmatic. Part of the piece is to do with things not being what they first appear to be, and that sums up Sylvia. In the golden age of television, it takes a lot to shock audiences, but Requiem may achieve that. On one level, it's a police procedural about a missing child that will tug at the heartstrings, but on another, Requiem is a creepy horror story. Joanne Scanlon said, "This isn't similar to anything else. We appear to live in a completely rational world, but I don't think that rationality answers all our questions. Requiem is a thrilling, intelligent drama, but it's also very scary. Don't watch it alone or in the dark." There you go.
That sounds creepy. I'd like to check that out.
Yeah, sounds very good.
I wonder if that's available here. Did it say where we can watch it?
It's on BBC One.
Okay, so I wonder if they make it available on BBC America or
They might
online
eventually.
somewhere. Yeah. That'd
Yeah.
be cool to check out. Yeah, there's been a lot of different sets that, that Prison Break. They were originally filming at the Joliet State Prison in Illinois, and I heard that they didn't like filming there at night, and there was a lot of weird activity that would take place.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, where are we off to next?
We're talking about Katie Price. She signed up for a new reality show with a twist.
This is funny. We talked about this last week when you were off. Mark Anthony and I were discussing this, and she was talking about her ghostly activity and working with the psychic, and I said we were joking about the fact it sounds like she's kind of bucking for a reality show. And bam, here we go. A week later, updated. Nice.
Okay.
See, that's what you have a psychic attorney, and he picks up on that stuff.
Well, there you go. Katie Price has reportedly just signed up for the most fun-sounding reality show ever. According to the Daily Star, she will be joining hosts Christine Lampert and Matt Richardson, as well as a group of other celebs on Celebrity Haunted Mansion Live. The 39-year-old Katie, who is mom to Harvey Jr., Princess Bunny, and Jet, yes, she's picked traditional names for her children, is apparently the first of the famous faces to sign up for the reality show, which will take place in a creepy haunted house in Gloucestershire. The show is set to air next month on the W channel, and if the report is true, we can already picture Katie screaming her head off. Celebrity Haunted Mansion Live will pit two teams of celebs against each other as they make their way through a haunted home guided by paranormal experts. Oh, I see where they're going here. The former glamour model has never shied away from supernatural talk. It recently emerged that she'd called in paranormal investigator Lee Roberts, who has appeared on ghostly shows such as Most Haunted Live Events, U.S. TV shows Ghost Attacks, never heard of it, and Quest Red's Lockdown Shockdown. You heard of that one?
Lockdown, shockdown. No, I haven't heard of that.
That must be a net-only deal. Katie has spent years complaining of ghouls haunting her mansion in Sussex, and Lee previously told The Sun that she brought him in to help her track down the spirits. He said, Katie is very much into ghost hunting and the paranormal. We have been messaging for a couple of months on Twitter, so we just wanted to explore it a little more. I've been showing her the ropes, he said. Lee even hinted that they might work on a separate ghostly reality show together if producers were keen. The model, formerly known as Jordan, claims she has been dealing with ghosts for 20 years, even inviting mediums and psychics to her house to investigate and hold seances. Last year, she told Loose Women her aura was to blame, saying, most of my houses are haunted. When I've had mediums around, they say, it's me. I have an aura around me. She explained, I had a house that had memories. It was amazing, but I couldn't understand why it had been up for sale for 2 years and no one had bought it. Anyway, I bought it, and I had so many ghostly experiences there that I ended up finding out it had been built on a nursing home, which had been knocked down. Yeah, and they just didn't want to leave, Dave. They were so enthralled with the Jell-O that they didn't want to.
Where's my pudding pop? Where's my pudding pop?
I love the coffee. The orangery where the swimming pool was where they put the bodies and stuff. They just swam with the fishes, Dave. They were Luca Brasi over there in the nursing home. So many things happen there, like with water and everything. I had mediums come around and they would tell me stuff that happened. Yeah, the house was haunted. The article says, ooh, has anyone got chills? Do you have chills, Dave? Do you have chills by
I got chills. They're multiplying, and I'm losing control. Because the power you're supplying, it's electrifying, Tim.
I figured, yeah. She revealed in 2015 that she even called in an exorcist to rid her Surrey home of ghosts, the ghosts of old people wanting their teeth back. After claiming her kids were waking up screaming in the middle of the night, we had it cleared because it was haunted and we had to get rid of the ghost, she told OK Mag. I called the people who lived here before, who'd been here for 25 years, and asked if anyone had died here, and they said, not in the last 18 years, but give it time. I don't know who, but I guess it means someone did die here, she said. That's the name of that tune.
All right. Where are we off to next, my good man?
A ghostly black monk appears in the picture of a father of two took in the grounds of a medieval castle, which has baffled the experts. A father of two claims to have taken a picture of a ghostly black monk, not a month, because that would take a long time to take, in the grounds of a medieval castle. 50-year-old John Wicks took his 12-year-old son Harry to, is it Eynsford Castle in Kent?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Close enough. Because he was learning about medieval castles at school, and the pair took some photographs, and he's being a good dad, and he's just showing them the ropes, you know. What they didn't expect to see when they looked back over them was an eerie black hooded figure glaring towards the camera from the opposite end of the site. Unsure of what the black shadowy man was, Mr. Wicks said, "Look away, son, look, there's an elephant." No, he didn't. He enlisted a paranormal investigator as he had not noticed anyone around when taking the photograph. And the expert claims there is no explanation for the monk's appearance. Why? Because he's a paranormal investigator, and, whoa, I get into it. You didn't pay the guy anything. No, I'm kidding. According to local legend, Mr. Wicks claims a black monk has been spotted in the area before. In 1130, William de Eynsford, who held the castle for the Archbishop of Canterbury, allegedly retired to become a monk. And shouldn't we all do that, really? Mr. Wicks from Kent said, "I was quite surprised when I first saw the picture. The strange thing was my little boy who had history homework, so that's why we went there. We only went to take a few pictures because he wanted to know how a castle was built. And I said, son, sweat, hard work, equity, and eventually you die because it takes too long to build." I saw the image with the figure in it and looked on the web. And that's when I read about a monk being seen in the area. I'm not really sure about that sort of stuff, he said. I asked a paranormal investigator what he thought, and he went down there last week to check it out. When I showed my son, he looked at it and just laughed because I was certain that figure hadn't been there when we took the picture and it was worth investigating. When I posted the image online in a paranormal group, there was a suggestion that it was just a hole in the wall, but someone had actually gone there to take pictures and confirm that that was not the case. Mr. Wicks claims that although he was unsure if the black figure was a ghost, he has had supernatural unexplained experiences before, including being brought back to life in 1995. Oh, he didn't mention that at the beginning of the story, did he?
No.
No. He said, "I'm not sure if it's a ghost or not. I'm never really freaked out by that sort of stuff. At first, I wondered if it was just a trick of light. Everyone who's seen it is interested in it because many think of it as a ghost. I've had a few supernatural experiences in the past. I had a motorcycle accident in 1995 and died and was brought back to life. When I died, a strange thing happened. I wouldn't say I've experienced a lot of ghostly goings-on, but when I lay there and died, I saw my grandfather telling me to go back to the other side. You never know. I might have been," he said, "I might have been because I was on a lot of morphine." Well,
she might have crossed over to the other side is what she's saying. That's interesting. Yeah, that's a possibility.
Paranormal investigator Alan Tigwell decided to visit Eynsford Castle twice last Thursday and took a look at the layout of the castle and consider if the photos taken by Mr. Wicks were likely to show a ghost. The auditor believes there was no explanation for the figure in the picture. After spending time in the castle grounds, and the demonology specialist claims it is a fantastic image. The 44-year-old Mr. Tigwell said, "I went to the site twice last Thursday, in the morning when it first opened and later on. The purpose of my visit was to ascertain whether there was anything within those walls to explain the picture. I've been investigating the paranormal for over 20 years. The difficulty with looking at things retrospectively is that it's impossible to say exactly what something is. All I can say is that there wasn't anything in the castle itself that could explain the picture. Eynsford Castle is a medieval site, and from what Mr. Wicks said, there's a legend about a monk being there. In terms of the history of the castle, there was nothing specifically about a monk living there that I could find, but I do believe one of the families who owned it had a son who left to become a monk. English Heritage, who manages Eynsford Castle, did not wish to comment on the story."
I wonder why that is.
Who knows?
Probably getting tired of answering the same questions. That's got to be tiring.
Probably, yeah.
All right, where shall we go next, sir? How many more stories do we have?
We have 4.
Okay.
I'm going to take a quick drink here. Hold on. Still recovering from the old bronchial thing. Okay.
All right, let's buzz through them. What have you got?
We go to Washington State, where Bigfoot fans in Washington State may soon be able to put their appreciation for the creature towards a good cause by way of a special Sasquatch license plate to benefit park maintenance. You, too, can drive around with Sasquatch on your ass.
That's cool. They're gonna do Bigfoot plates. That's kind of cool. Washington State, I think they know a lot more than they're letting on, those sneaky bastards.
The clever concept is the brainchild of State Senator Ann Rivers, who made news last year when she introduced a bill to name Sasquatch as the official state cryptid. They have those? Do we have an official state cryptid here in Minnesota?
Yes, I think it's the lutefisk.
Yeah.
It doesn't really exist. Nothing that horrible could really exist, and it's got to be a legend.
Unfortunately, it does exist, Dave. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Just stay away from it if you can. Although that proposal failed to pass, this new piece of legislation may have legs. Yes, Sasquatch is not the official state cryptid of Washington State, but this one may go through. Just cross your fingers. This new piece of legislation may have legs since funds from the Sasquatch plate would be helping to improve the state parks. The fact that the creature may call those areas home was not lost on Rivers, who mused that it makes perfect sense to capitalize on Sasquatch's popularity in a way that would help protect and improve that habitat.
Cool.
The bill will wind its way through the Washington State legislature over the next few weeks and hopefully will be passed later this year. While there are almost certainly regulations surrounding the size and shape of a license plate, we can't help but wish that the special Sasquatch version could be a giant footprint.
Dun, dun, dun. That's all I got. All right, where are we going to go next?
Well, we're going to talk about scary stuff. A human skull disappearing in a police station as a witch doctor is taken to court.
What?
Yeah, I believe we're going to Africa on this deal. There was drama at the Kwale police station after exhibits that were being used in a witchcraft case disappeared mysteriously on Monday as police prepared to take a self-proclaimed witch doctor to court. Mr. Omar Mbone, suspected witch doctor
Sounds like your old porn name.
Well, as a matter of fact, Dave, I was Mr. Mbone the second. Because I'd do it twice. Suspected witch doctor from Kwale County, Mr. Omar Mbone, was arrested Sunday and was set to be charged in court on Monday for extorting cash. Matuga Sub-County Deputy Commissioner Benson Mysori said the witch doctor was found in possession of paraphernalia, including a human skull and a tortoise shell, when he was arrested in Macumba Village in Kwale County. Police were shocked to learn that the bag containing evidence they had from Mr. Mbone had disappeared mysteriously. Now I'm going to giggle every time I say his name. Look what you did. Mr. Mbone, and we all said that at one time or another, is said to be performing rituals to catch witches. He is also accused of causing disturbance and endangering lives of elderly people accused of being witches. It is reported that a section of residents from 13 villages in Makangani Ward, Matuga Sub-County, hired him to hunt down witches they accuse of bewitching them. The residents had reportedly contributed $650,000 of their currency for the task. He was arrested at Macumba Village at the home of Abdallah Nyangazi, who the villagers claim is a witch. At the time of his arrest, he had just performed a ritual and had managed to remove a clay pot from the house of Mr. Nyangazi, which contained a tortoise. He proceeded to urinate on Mr. Nyangazi.
What?
Yeah.
This story is going weird. That is a porn name, isn't it?
Well, what, Mr. Nyangazi?
Yeah.
And shave his hair as a way of cleansing him from ever practicing witchcraft. So evidently that's all you got to do, Dave. You got somebody who's practicing witchcraft, just take a whiz on him and shave him down.
I thought that's how you handle like a jellyfish sting.
Well, that's exactly what you do too. That's
how
you solve a lot of things. Is your kid getting an F in a certain grade in school? You whiz on them, you shave them.
No, don't ever tell people to pee on their children. No, what is wrong with you? Good God.
That's how you do it, Dave.
Oh my God.
In witchcraft,
please just ignore everything he's saying. No, that's not at all.
That's how you do it.
All right, where is last final stories here? Where are we going? Oh my God.
We're not done with the story. The angry residents
be done with the story.
The suspected witch before the police came to his rescue, Mr. Mysori said. During Mr. Mbone's arrest, the angry residents accused the police of interfering with their rituals. Mr. Mysori denied that Mr. Mbone possesses any powers to catch witches and said he will not tolerate such cases where elderly people are likely to be killed on suspicion of being witches. Watuga OCPD, Mr. Japeth Kibuga, said they are holding Mr. Umboni, and he will be arraigned in court once investigations are complete. There you go. That was in Nairobi.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
place to avoid. Do not go to Nairobi. All right.
If you want to be whizzed on and chewed down.
Nope.
But if that's your thing.
Not even by Mr. Byboni. Mr. Boney and Boomboni in Nairobi. All right. Where is our last couple of stories?
An Alberta man, part of a California lawsuit to prove Sasquatch is real. He's going forward with it, Dave. He says we can't lose.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a Canadian is suing to prove that to prove that Bigfoot exists. It's one of those days. My mind is in 18 places at once.
And why not sue to prove Godzilla's right or there too? Why not? An Alberta man is part of a group of people petitioning a California court to recognize the existence of Sasquatch. A lawsuit was filed with the state of California on Thursday. Todd Standing. Hey, we've had him on the show.
No, we haven't.
Yes, we have.
We had Todd Standing on our show?
Yes, I've gone through that archive.
Wow.
Todd Standing, who was originally from Edmonton and studied, it was a long time ago. It was 2000.
No kidding.
7 or 8,
yeah. 7? Okay.
7 or 8, yep. It was originally from Edmonton and studied at the University of Alberta, said he intends on bringing forward overwhelming evidence to prove that Sasquatch is indeed a species and that it exists in the wild in California. Good to know he's still going 11 years later. There is a date set, so we're going in with PhDs, with wilderness experts beyond myself, with wildlife biologists, with fingerprint experts. We're going to prove so beyond a reasonable doubt that this species exists. Standing said from California Friday morning. When we prove that and we're successful, the species will be recognized as an indigenous wildlife species, and then fish and wildlife in California, in Canada, and in the United States, everywhere, we'll have to start recognizing the species and studying them, doing biological surveys. Standing said he has DNA and hair samples that will prove Sasquatch not only exists in California, but in British Columbia and Alberta as well. Standing, the man behind the Netflix documentary Discovering Bigfoot, has focused his research on the Pacific Northwest and said an area near Alta has seen particularly frequent Sasquatch activity. Half of my evidence from Alberta, he said, I've had lots of success in Alberta, but I have one particular research site north of Nordegg. We've had live interactions with Sasquatch there. Standing encourages any naysayers to join him on an expedition and said he will prove to anyone that the Sasquatch exists. Don't take my word for it. Come out with me and I will show you a Sasquatch in the field, he said. I challenge you to come out on an expedition with me in Alberta in your own backyard. I will show you a Sasquatch. I bet he will. In a statement Friday afternoon, Alberta Fish and Wildlife told Global News it does not keep any statistics related to Sasquatch sightings in the province. Standing's American
Why not? What are they afraid of? What are they afraid of?
Absolutely nothing.
Oh,
they don't fear Sasquatch.
I thought they might be afraid of something.
Please, they got guns up there. Standing's American colleagues have a hearing date set in California on March 19th. The Alberta research is working on similar legal action in British Columbia and Alberta. According to the Canadian Encyclopedia, the Sasquatch is a creature whose existence is suggested but has not yet been confirmed by the scientific community. The encyclopedia describes the Sasquatch as a large ape-like creature that lives primarily in the forest stretching from the west coast of British Columbia to northern California and to a lesser extent
all the way to Tacoma, Philadelphia, Atlanta, L.A. Are they going into it?
In LA.
Oh.
No.
He should be.
The encyclopedia says Sasquatch has been described up to 9 feet tall, weighing up to 800 pounds, fighting from the corner in the left, and wearing the red and blue trunks, and having footprints that measure up to 50 centimeters. There you go.
Well, we'll have to reach out to Todd. Maybe it's time to catch back up with Todd Standing. I know I think there was some controversy too about him maybe being the Bigfoot in a few of his videos, but I don't know. Let me reach out to him this week and see if we can get Todd to join us. It's been since 2007, you say?
Yeah. At the time we had him on, he was working on that one project with, I almost said Marla Maples. Boy, am I out of it.
Melba Ketchum?
Melba Ketchum, yeah.
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 All right. Where are we going next, sir?
Our last story has to do with an Irish priest asking for backup as the demand for exorcisms rise exponentially. No, this isn't the punchline for a joke. It's an actual story. We go to Dublin, where an Irish priest and exorcist is asking the country's bishops for more support after noticing a dramatic increase in demonic activity in the country. In a recent interview with the Irish Catholic, Father Pat Collins, that's very Irish, said he has been overwhelmed with the number of requests for exorcisms from the faithful in Ireland. In an open letter, he has urged the Irish bishops to train more priests to deal with the demand. It's only in recent years that the demand has risen exponentially, Collins told the Irish Catholic. Collins' comments are on par with those of other exorcists throughout the world, including the International Association of Exorcists, a group of 400 Catholic leaders and priests, which has reported a dramatic increase in demonic activities in recent years. In 2014, the IAE said the levels of demonic activities throughout the world has reached what they call a pastoral emergency. I don't know if you've ever had a pastoral emergency before, Dave, but
no,
I have, and it's terrifying. So, mainly when you drink raw milk and it passes through your colon, it's terrible. Collins said that he was baffled that
are you back to sniffing glue?
Maybe.
I thought so.
Well, the pain meds don't work very much anymore. You build a tolerance. Collins said that he was baffled that the bishops haven't trained more exorcists for Ireland, but have added that anyone who doesn't see the need for more exorcists is out of touch with reality. How ironic. What I'm finding out desperately is people who in their own minds believe rightly or wrongly that they're afflicted by an evil spirit, Collins said. I think in many cases they wrongly think about it. But when they turn to the church doesn't know what to do with them, and they refer them on either a psychologist or to somebody that they've heard of that is interested in this form of ministry, and they do fall between the cracks and often are not helped, he added. A spokesperson for the Bishops' Conference at Maynooth told the Irish Catholic that each diocese is required to have a trained exorcist who is able to discern the difference between signs of true demonic possession and signs of mental or psychological illness. Exorcisms are very rare, and this office has not been made aware of any cases of exorcism in Ireland in recent years, the spokesperson went on to say. The Catechism of the Catholic Church emphasizes the importance of distinguishing between demonic activity and mental illness. From paragraph 1673, the quote is, exorcism is directed at the expulsion of demons or to the liberation from demonic possession through the spiritual authority which Jesus entrusted to his church. Illness, especially psychological illness, is a very different matter. Treating this is the concern of medical science. Therefore, before an exorcism is performed, it is important to ascertain that one is dealing with the presence of the evil one and not an illness. In April of 2015, the Congregation for the Clergy and the Sacerdos Institute, I believe, it could have been a Father Sarducci thing, I'm not sure, hosted a seminar at Rome's Regina Apostolorum University. I said that slowly for a reason. Specifically aimed at training priests and lay people in spotting the differences between psychological problems and demonic possession. The conference included interventions and a wide range of experts in the field of exorcism, including practicing exorcists, medical professionals, psychologists, lawyers, and theologians. Recently updated rules of the Catholic rite of exorcism also state that a person who believes they are possessed must first rule out mental illness before seeking an exorcism. If the rite of exorcism is still needed, they may seek out a priest who has been trained and appointed as an exorcist for his diocese by his bishop. Collins noted that it often takes multiple meetings with a person seeking an exorcism to determine precisely what is afflicting them, but noted that whether it's true demonic activity or other problems, the requests have gone up dramatically in recent years. Father Vincent Lampert, a Vatican-trained exorcist and a parish priest of the Archdiocese of Indianapolis, has previously told CNA that the best defense against demonic possession is staying close to the sacraments. In his open letter to the Irish bishops, Collins wrote, "There's been increasing evidence of the malicious activity of the evil one. I can't judge on my own subjective experience because people see on the internet that I'm supposed to be an exorcist, so I get an inordinate number of calls from people and emails. All I can say is that I have that reputation, but it's only in recent years that the demand has risen exponentially." And that is what he wrote. There you go.
Well, is that all we wrote? Do we have any more stories?
That's all we wrote.
That's all we wrote and all we read this week. Thank you all for tuning in. And remember, send your real-life encounters with the supernatural to Dave@darknessradio.com. We'll be back again tomorrow with a brand new edition of Beyond the Darkness and a brand new True Crime Tuesday. And remember, you can still sign up. We'd love for you to sign up. We want to get to that 2,500 mark. Get all of you on board with us. You've been thinking about it. Give it a try. Remember, try it out for a month. If you don't like what you've heard, you don't have to continue. It's not a contractual obligation for a year. It's not an issue like that. You can go month to month. And when you sign up for the month for $5, it gives you access to all of the past archives over the last year as well. So you get a lot of content, 4 brand new episodes every month, 90 to 120 minutes long. We put out the best in True Crime Talk Radio. You can subscribe by going to darknessradio.com and clicking on the True Crime Tuesday banner. That's darknessradio.com and click on the True Crime Tuesday banner. It's only $1.25 an episode, and that gives you all 4 of the brand new episodes that come out every week that you can listen to anytime, and it gives you access to all of the past archives. So go sign up now. Don't miss another minute of the best in True Crime Talk Radio. For that guy, I'm this guy, and you've been listening to that show right here.